Welcome everybody. Today we're going to be talking about what, where, and how regarding the celebration of Hanukkah, the Hanukkah holiday. The miracle of Hanukkah took place over 2,000 years ago, around the year 3622, which would be 139 BCE. At that time, Antiochus, the king over the Syrian Greek Empire, ruled over the land of Israel, and he oppressed the Jews that were living in Israel at that time by forbidding them from practicing their religion, from fulfilling God's commandments, and it was a very sad, tragic time in Jewish history. There was a fellow by the name of Matisyahu. He was a Kohen, and him and his children stood up against the Greeks and formed a rebellion, and they called themselves the Maccabees, and they fought against the mighty giant Greek army, and miraculously they were able to defeat them and chase them out of the land of Israel. We know that when they returned to the temple, they found that the Greeks defiled the second temple at that time in Jerusalem, and they started cleaning up the temple, and they weren't able to find, they wanted to kindle the menorah, they weren't able to find any pure sealed oil that was sealed with the high priest seal on the oil, because the Greeks' philosophy was eradicate any spiritual aspect. Their intellect, their intellectual philosophy was everything physical. There's no idea of celebrating or worshiping a spiritual, there's no spirituality. So therefore they destroyed all the seals on the oil, and we know the miracle happened. It was they able to find one jug of sealed oil, which they kindled for one night, and it was only enough to last one night, and miraculously it lasted 8 days, which was enough time for them to travel, produce, and return with new kosher sealed olive oil to light the menorah with. So we're going to discuss today different aspects about the holiday of Hanukkah. The first one is the menorah. We know we have a menorah which has 8 candles, with the 9th one being the shamish. The menorah was instituted as a publicity strategy, advertising to the entire world that God makes miracles for those who stand up to truth and justice. The Maccabees chased away the forces of darkness with swords. We do it by kindling the menorah. That is why we light the menorah shortly after sunset, with 2 exceptions. On Friday evening, we light the menorah before sunset to have enough time before Shabbos begins, and on Saturday night, we light the menorah only after Shabbos ends, after nightfall. Otherwise, we light the menorah after sunset, before nightfall. It's important to have the menorah lit for at least a half an hour after nightfall. And that's why we try to get bigger candles to last that amount of time. Who lights the menorah? Every single Jewish person, man, woman, or child. Some people have the head of the household lights the menorah for the entire family, or some people light one candle and let their children light the rest of the candles. To have electric menorah is very nice as a decoration, but it's not enough to fulfill the mitzvah, so it's important to light the menorah with physical candles. The Hanukkah menorah is involved with olive oil. So that's the best fuel to use to kindle your menorah, with olive oil. If you can't have olive oil, you could light with beeswax candles, or any type of candles is good enough for kindling the menorah. Like I said, it's important to light the menorah after nightfall, after sunset, before nightfall. How do we do it? We gather the entire family together. We place the menorah in a visible spot. A lot of people traditionally put it in a windowsill, or some people put it in the doorway, opposite across the mezuzah. We try to find a room that's mostly used, for example, the room where everyone eats, their dining room, and we put it in the doorway of the dining room. The person lighting the menorah kindles the shamish. So this is the 9th candle, which is called the shamish. and that is the candle we light the rest of the menorah. We kindle this candle, and then we say the first two blessings. On the first night of Hanukkah, we say a third blessing. The first blessing is Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam Asher Kiddushanu B'Mitzvotav V'Tzivanu La'adlik Ner Chanukah. The second one is Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam Sha'asa Nisim Lavoseinu Bayamim Ha'im Bizman Hazeh, which means, blessed are you, Lord of God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with His commandments and commanded us to kindle the Hanukkah lights. The second bracha is, blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who performs miracles for our forefathers in those days at this time. On the first night of Hanukkah, which this year falls on Thursday, December 10th, we say the third blessing, which in Hebrew is Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam Shechianu V'Kiyimanu V'Giyanu Lizman Hazeh, which means, blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has granted us life, sustained us, enabled us to reach this occasion. And then, after we say the blessings, we kindle the menorah. So on the first night of Hanukkah, we light one candle, which would be on the right-hand side, and every night of Hanukkah, we add another candle. So on the second night of Hanukkah, we add on the left-hand side a second candle, and we kindle from left to right. So on the third night of Hanukkah, we light 3 candles, and we kindle the newest one, and we go left to right, 3, 2, 1, and so on and so forth. Every night of Hanukkah, we add another flame. After we light the candle, we place the shamish back into its original spot, and then we sing Hanerot Halalu or Ma'osur, different Hanukkah melodies. We linger around the candles for about a half an hour after sunset, and we share Hanukkah stories with our family, and enjoy a dreidel game, and indulge in some delicious hot latkes or donuts or sugnificants. What are Hanukkah foods? Hanukkah commemorates an oil-based miracle, which explains why we eat oily foods like fried potato pancakes, which are latkes, or deep-fried donuts, which are called sugnificants in Hebrew. One of the greatest Maccabees' victories was the result of feeding their enemy with cheese. There was a very brave woman by the name of Yehudis, and she infiltrated the Greek army and fed the general cheese, dairy products, and got him thirsty and then got him drunk, and eventually she was able to eradicate this general. Because of this great woman, it's a tradition we eat dairy produce on Hanukkah. For example, we have dairy chocolate coins, which we eat on Hanukkah. And that leads us to the next thing called Hanukkah Geld. During Hanukkah, it's customary to give the children something called Hanukkah Geld, which is money. The type of present we give usually is money, and the reason for that is we teach the children to fulfill the commandment of charity. We know that we're supposed to give 1/10 of everything we earn to charity, to tzedakah, like the commandment God commanded us. So when we give Hanukkah Geld, money, to the children, we're teaching them to take 1/10 of whatever they receive and give it to charity. Another thing we have on Hanukkah is called dreidels. Everyone knows the reason why we play with dreidels is because during the story of Hanukkah, which took place over 2,000 years ago, the children were forbidden, Jews were forbidden from studying Torah, so the Jewish children would go and hide in vineyards or in caves and study Torah. And they would have a special lookout, and when they would see a Greek soldiers coming looking for Jewish children studying Torah, they would hide all their Torah scrolls and take out a dreidel and play the dreidel game to confuse the Greek soldiers. On the dreidel are 4 sides with 4 letters inscribed. Nun Gimel Hey Shin, which means Nes Gadol Haya Sham, which means a great miracle happened there. We spin the dreidel and we play different Hanukkah games with the dreidel. We say special prayers and thanksgiving to God on the 8 days of Hanukkah. Each day of Hanukkah, we recite the Hallel, which commemorates thanksgiving to God for all the miracles that happened to our ancestors in those days. We also insert a special prayer called Ve'al Hanisim in the prayer which we pray 3 times a day and in the grace of meal. Additionally, every morning we read from the Torah during the holiday of Hanukkah about the inauguration offering brought in honor of the dedication of the tabernacle. And that's one of the reasons why the holiday is called Hanukkah. One reason is because Hanukkah in Hebrew means Chanu Chavhei. Chanu means they rested, Chavhei, on the 25th day, Chavhei, which is the numeric value 25, on the 25th day of Kislev, is the day they rested from their enemies after overpowering the Syrian Greeks. And that's why we celebrate Hanukkah on the 25th day of the month of Kislev. Another reason why Hanukkah is called Hanukkah in Hebrew, because the translation for the word Hanukkah is inauguration. It's the day where they inaugurated the tabernacle, the temple, in the desert, while the Jews were traveling in the desert for 40 years. And that is the reason why we celebrate Hanukkah. Happy Hanukkah, and all the best.